Hello, and welcome to another episode of Pantomonium. Today, we're going to be looking at the saucy, filthy, dirty world of adult Panto. So, for those of you who are still with us and have also managed to keep the contents of this stomach down, yes, as I explained in my bedroom earlier, we will be looking at adult pantomime today. Why adult pantomime? Well, I want to start looking at how we've diverged a little from pantomime. I think the best place to start is a small baby step, or adult step, as it were, away from the traditional format. So again, speaking to various practitioners of adult pantomime, today I'll be asking what actually makes an adult pantomime, and why is there a demand for it?
It is the same show, essentially. I mean, 70–80% of it is exactly the same, because it should be. But what's great is you're allowing an audience to sit there and know that there are no children in the room, know that there's no one in the room that's going to be offended by anything that may or may not be said or happen. So there's that element of being a naughty child again, but with all of the knowledge that adults have. So even some of the jokes that we have in the standard show are looked at in a different way because they've got the mindset of it.
You'll often find that a double entendre that gets kind of ignored in a normal show and might not get that much of a laugh. In the adult show, they're waiting for it. So as soon as all that dirty mind kicks in and they're ready for every single double entendre, they're looking for them. So as soon as it happens, they start laughing. We always had that rule that we talk about, that the thing about Panto, the humour in Panto, the rule is that as long as it's clean when it leaves your lips, what the audience do with what you've said is entirely in their own minds and their own fault. So as long as the words you say are clean, the inference can be as filthy as you want. In adult nights, that changes a little bit.
It doesn't
have to be that case.
And I think it's just that that point between it being a double entendre and just being literally pointed, just gets closer and closer and closer. And that's the big difference, is that we will point things in a much more straight down the line, almost in your face sort of way. Some of the shout outs will change. So the dame in our panto has always had a connection with the audience where she's asked them to remind her not to do something, usually not to flirt with a man. So it usually involves saying, don't touch his genitalia, you've got a lot to get on with in the adult nights, as opposed to something a little bit cleaner. And there might be the odd swear word that creeps in. Yeah, occasionally. But
we're quite strict about that. We're quite strict about how we use that.
I think we're quite keen that it never feels like it loses its class. And so our adult nights are not about how many dildos can we wave around and how many times can we say the C word. It's not really about that.
It becomes less funny. It doesn't have its impact.
And double entendre is always the best, because then it's always in people's imagination and less sort of, here you go, laugh at that, which is not really what we want it to be.
It's as dirty as you want it to be when it's in your head.
So how different from traditional panto do you think this is?
Really different. In the filthy respect, it's completely different. It's not panto at all. It's absolutely. Can we swear? No, don't swear.
I think we can.
It's absolutely. Yeah, it's really filthy. And because people say, "Oh, you're doing a naughty adult panto. Is it really smutty?" And I'm like, "No, it's really filthy and vulgar." It's like, because we don't tend to. This year is the first year I've actually put a line. Usually, I put everything's on the table. I don't really have a line. This year there was a little bit of line, because obviously the show's very pop culture as well, and lots of up-to-date references, but there's some things in the world we shouldn't be talking about or making fun of, so I've let that be. But usually my rule is there's no line and everything's on the table. So in the sense that it's completely not panto in that sense, yes. But then there is a traditional vibe about it, and sort of, I don't want to give the secret away of my secret formula, but it is panto at the end of the day, and you mustn't forget that, I think. And I think maybe that's when other people might not get it completely or 100% right. We drop lots of F-bombs and foul language in the show, but there's a way of doing it, and you can't just swear for the sake of it. So you have to remember that it's a pantomime, and you must deliver a pantomime. And as you probably know when you come and see the show, and everyone that's seen the show in the past, is no one's addressed as ladies and gentlemen, everyone is addressed as boys and girls. And there's something magical about the audience when they get treated like children and they get to act like children, but in an adult way. There's some major escapism. It's kind of like Halloween. We really embrace Halloween, don't we, as adults, more than we did with kids, I think, now. And there's something about it which I like. So yeah, I think it's a mix. It's a fine balance between making sure you have the traditional, like we've got custard pies and all of that, and then we have float dolls and dildos.
What makes your panto particularly adult?
Just swearing, to be honest with you. It's I suppose there's something. There's an opportunity to be political and to satirise what's going on in the news or current affairs, or just with socio-political things like what's happening in Strictly Come Dancing things, and you can be a bit more near the knuckle, and rather than have double entendre, which of course normal pantomime has, ours is kind of more single entendre. We're a bit more in your face with and on the nose sometimes with our comments and references.
The crux is that the point, what is different about it? It's cruder, it's ruder, and it's a room that's been made exclusively for adults, and that makes for a very different show. And
that's a joy for some people as well. Some people like to come and see it, they like to be kids, and they like to know that there's going to be no children there, and that's often one of the features of an adult night.
Why is there a need for adult panto as such? Why does adult panto exist when panto already exists? Why do you think?
It's a very good question. A lot of people that come and see our pantomimes tell us that they hate traditional pantomime, but they love ours. So when we started doing the shows, it seemed that there was a space for redressing the balance of hideous experiences that children had of going to see traditional panto, whether they had been really bad because they were done by an amateur dramatics group in the local village hall and it was just awfully done, or whether it was really scary because sometimes for a small child you can have a really awful experience of meeting a baddie in pantomime that can scar you for life. I'm told, it's never happened to me. I just wanted to become one. But I find that endearing that people come to us because they hate panto. But more and more over the years, I know that we have people come to us who appreciate that we don't lambast everything about traditional panto. I love it. It's what I was brought up on. I have been performing in traditional panto since I was 7 years old in that village hall, in that dreadful production. That's where I started doing it, and that's where this is the kernel of all of this comes from. So it's, I suppose, sometimes when you go and see traditional pantomime now, as an adult, the audience is full of children, and sometimes the focus is perhaps a little too much on them and their needs and entertaining them. It's very loud, there's a lot of, crying or talking. I'm talking about children here again. And the thing I really, really hate, actually, about traditional pantomimes, not all of them, but a lot of them, they sell a lot of merchandise, which obviously I appreciate they have to make money in the theatre. They make a tremendous amount of noise and things that light up and go clack, clack, clack and go round and round and round and round and round. And I think for a lot of people that aren't used to Teletubbies being in the background and, children kind of chattering on a daily basis, and don't get me wrong, anybody out there that puts up with that all day long, you're a better person than I am. But I think that's kind of mind-boggling when you go into a theatre and you meet a big audience that's kind of having a lot of that stuff going on, whilst also watching a show. So for me, it's an opportunity to go, well, let's take all of the fun bits, let's take all of the great bits, let's take away some of the sticky fingers and some of the talking at the inappropriate bits, and see if we can actually get something quite nuanced and intelligent in here, as well as being a little bit saucier than an adult show.
Do you think that adult panto is plugging a hole, so to speak, in the seasonal calendar?
Yeah, I think there's always room for it, and there's always been adult panto out. I have a long history with panto and adult panto, because as a performer before I sort of went over to the dark side of producing and writing and directing, I've been in numerous pantos, and I was very lucky enough to work for Jim Davison and his company, and that's where I discovered adult panto and the workings of adult panto and how to get it right. Because it's tricky, it is really tricky, and the way to do it. So I sort of had lots of experience in that field already. And then, so now coming back and doing it, yeah, I feel that there is a niche for it and a need for it, in the sense that people love it, and there's lots of them about now. Over the last couple of years, they seem to have sprung up everywhere. And yeah, I think there's an audience for it. It's nice that people have got an alternative to go to.
Oh, well, I think people have different tastes in comedy, and lots of people like different things.
Yeah,
right?
and why do people like to watch Family Guy over The Simpsons? Same reason, I think.
Yeah. Some people like it slightly rougher hewn. So, I mean,
sensitive humour.
I think your question is sort of. I mean, I could say, why is there the need for any kind of different type of theatre? There's always the need for different types of theatre. Everyone likes different things. Some people would want to go to something that's very, very crude. Some people would even find our own panto too crude for their taste, and would want to go to something even milder, perhaps. I think, yeah, there's space for everything.
So, we found that adult panto is exactly what it says on the tin. It's panto for adults. What fascinates me really is that it even exists, because to me, for ages, I thought and felt that panto was very much a family affair. You went with the children, you had a good time, it was good, clean-ish family fun. But I love the fact that there's a demand for older people like myself who say, like, let's get rid of the kids. Let's spend an evening doing something that is really reminiscent, something that's really homely, something that's really fun, but let's be a bit late night Channel 5 about it. I think the issue is, like, is adult panto actually an alternative to panto? I don't think it is. I don't think it's an alternative, because it's still very much panto. I've been now to review both Paul L. Martin and Stuart State's adult pantos, and both of them, I said, you strip away the smut, you're left with still an excellent pantomime there. So what I think adult panto is actually panto because it does what panto does best. It adapts, it evolves, it's actually evolving itself to meet a different audience on a level that they're happy with, that, you know, it's meeting adults on an adult level. So yes, it's an alternative in the fact that we still have normal panto and now we have adult panto, but they're the same thing, two strands of the same panto branch. So that's that. Adult panto is panto, just a lot more fun and a lot more filthy, or just as fun but a lot more filthy in most of the cases. So we've still got other things to look at. We've still got other alternative shows. How far do they actually go from panto? How different are they, if at all? Now, that's something I'll leave you to think with as I go and try not to embarrass myself by getting down to a very small pair of red shorts again on YouTube. And I'll see you for my next episode of Pantomonium.